people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fucking fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. Ahead of her undisputed bid this weekend, Savannah Marshall is braced for Crews-Dezurn showdown, believes that Clarissa Shields will avoid the rematch.
There's a lot of strong opinions when it comes to that rematch.
Polar opposites. Some feel that Clarissa's in the right, demanding that the rematch happen in America because she won the first fight, while others feel that she's delusional because she doesn't have the marquee value here to carry it, to carry the show.
Polar opposites.
In reference to Franchon, who she's about to fight this weekend, she said she's more natural at the weight and she's fought everyone put in front of her at this weight, said Marshall in a recent interview with Sporting News. It's probably down to my knockout ratio. We have a few common opponents and I've knocked them out, and she hasn't. Taking nothing away from her, I do think she's tough. In her last fight with Aline Cedar-Ruz, that's the best I've ever seen her work, and Aline herself is a big puncher. Crews-Dezurn has definitely got the chin. I think she'll come flying at me. She's quite dirty and rough. I think she'll try to manhandle me, so to speak.
Yeah, Franchon's a pressure fighter.
We last saw her on the undercard of Taylor versus Serrano opposite the ring, then unified champion Aline Cedar-Ruz, who's big and strong, just like Savannah, but is a late starter. A late starter in the sport. I believe she crossed sports.
Was it rugby over to boxing?
Soccer over to boxing? In any event, while Aline Cedar-Ruz is a statuesque fighter and a strong puncher just like Savannah, she doesn't have Savannah's amateur background. That's what separates them.
Savannah and Aline.
Aline is durable and formidable, but limited. Limited in all the ways that Savannah is not. Savannah, who said, Franchon's quite dirty and rough, and I think she'll try to manhandle me, so to speak. Her offense is her defense, so she's there to be hit. After a couple of rounds, especially when I catch her clean, she'll go on the back foot.
It's what she's got to do. She's got to try to catch Franchon coming in. Franchon, who's aggressive and likely to try to close the distance. Savannah's got to catch her coming through the front door.
Franchon, in turn, must try to close the distance and fluster Savannah mid-range to inside. Savannah, who's got 2 good feet under her, if Savannah's smart, she won't just sell out with Franchon in the pocket because that's what Franchon wants.
Savannah's got 2 good feet and she needs to use them to create space and maintain it.
If she sells out with Franchon Cruz in the pocket at that range, that really does favor Franchon, the shorter, stumpier fighter.
She's the one that's got to close the distance, whereas Savannah has the luxury of fighting from the outside, trying to.
Now, I was offered a build-up fight, but I'm 32 years old now, and I haven't got the time to be doing 8-rounders and 6-rounders, said the silent assassin. And the thing is, at these higher weights, there's nobody there. There are 2 or 3 fighters that are world level. Then the gap is massive. It was a case of, okay, can I really get up for an 8-rounder against someone that I know I'm going to walk through? The option was there to fight Franchon. She called me out. She wanted that fight. So it was an easy fight to make.
She was actually there ringside for the Shields versus Marshall fight, and she didn't waste any time. Immediately after the fight was over, that's when she took to calling Savannah Marshall out.
Was she surprised that Franchon Cruz issued the challenge? No, because she's getting a payday, said Marshall after a moment's deliberation. She has mandatories that I know she doesn't want to fight, and she wouldn't get paid as much as she's getting to fight me. She's quite smart in that aspect. That she's held on to make this fight with me, it's what she wants. She wants the platform, she wants the limelight, she wants all this.
She's right. Franchon Cruz has a mandatory in the queue in the form of Crews-Dezurn, the dangerous, hard-punching Crews-Dezurn that's with most valuable promotions.
Currently in the process of trying to find Crews-Dezurn an opponent, but they're struggling because Crews-Dezurn really is dangerous. Crews-Dezurn shares a common opponent with Franchon Cruz in Aline Cedar-Ruz, who she battered much worse than Franchon did.
It's Franchon's mandatory, at least for now. If the belts change hands, she'll become Savannah's mandatory.
And I believe it's the way that Savannah says it is, that Franchon would prefer to fight Savannah because she is perhaps getting a bit more money, a little bit more money to fight Savannah than she'd get to fight Crews-Dezurn. Crews-Dezurn is a high risk, low reward.
Now, as far as Clarissa, in a Clarissa Shields rematch.
I think the tactics were wrong. I definitely fought Clarissa's fight, and I didn't think she'd be as tough as she was. She's a lot tougher than I expected, said Marshall when asked about Fight 1. I believe that I can outbox Clarissa, but I personally don't think she'll give me the fight. When you're in there, there's only you and the opponent who know.
And she knows. That was a hard fight.
She knows I hurt her. She knows she was pushed all the way, and I don't think she'll want to go through that again. We were due to have a rematch straight away, and she majorly priced herself out of the fight.
Both her and Dmitry Salita have taken a liking to demanding that the second fight happen in America, and I've questioned throughout whether or not that fight could do in America what it did in the UK.
Savannah has to settle affairs with Franchon Crews, and presumably settle affairs with Crews-Dezurn afterwards. Maybe they pay her to step aside. Maybe they drop the WBC title, surrender it to her to pursue a Clarissa Shields rematch. But if they do,
the offer from Dmitry Salita to Savannah must be for a greater dollar amount than Boxer is willing to pay, because if Boxer's paying Savannah more money in the UK than she'd make in the US, she's not coming.
No, I don't think she'll give me it in reference to a rematch. Fair play if she does, but I don't think she will. Like I said, she could have had the rematch straight after, and the vibe was I was getting that she wasn't interested.
She was more interested in boxing Hannah Gabriels for a second time, and that fell through when Hannah tested positive for a banned substance. Then it became a Cornejo fight. Cornejo's nowhere near as good as Savannah.
Nowhere near as skilled or as good a boxer as Savannah. And I don't think for a second that Clarissa made boxing Marisela Cornejo what she made boxing Savannah Marshall.
She says she made more money.
It's what she said via her social media, but put simply, I don't believe her.
I think it's bullshit.
Saw plenty of empty seats in the upper decks, the upper portions of that arena when she fought Marisela Cornejo, whereas the fight with Savannah seems to have drawn a bigger crowd.
A lot to think about ahead of this weekend's fight.
He got
Straight.
yeah, exactly.
Super straight. Hey, whatever I got, he got. You want these draws?
Holla.
Man, about bruh. Yeah, tripping.
That's dope. Any fighter knows what that is. Any fighter knows what that is.
Nah, every fighter ain't like that. You
Even if they don't have it, they know what that is, though.
Tripping, though. Every fighter ain't like that.
The world is reacting to recent footage that was uploaded here to YouTube of Adrian Broner making an appearance on a podcast. I believe it's the Hansa Project or the Hansa Podcast, something along those lines, citing malicious intent from the podcasters. Having conducted the interview, seeing the state of Adrian Broner, who looked inebriated or under the influence of something, and deciding to upload that footage anyway.
That they were looking to exploit him. Errol Spence Jr. said whoever was with Adrian and let him do that interview like that is lame as fuck.
Errol Spence Jr., Adrian Bronier's drinking buddy, his old drinking buddy. I don't think Errol's doing quite as much drinking these days as he used to in previous years. Chris Mannix said, Adrian Broner is surrounded by people who aren't looking out for Adrian Broner.
You put yourself out there, especially these days, in a vulnerable state. People are going to film it and exploit it. Thus, it's the people in your immediate circle, in your corner, that are supposed to protect you from that. It seems that no one was protecting Adrian.
Adrian Broner, who's coming off a points decision win over Bill Hutchinson, a lawyer who moonlights as a part-time boxer. They headlined a Don King show. We know what happened, Adrian Broner left the PBC, jumped into bed with Black Prime, but nothing materialized from that, and as a result,
He leaves Black Prime and he signs to Don King. Don King schedules the Bill Hutchinson fight.
Broner has it, Broner wins it, doesn't look world-class in the process, but that is another W in the column. Weeks that followed, he makes this appearance on this podcast. Some were blaming the podcasters,
Saying that they shouldn't have uploaded it.
that in uploading Broner in that inebriated state, uploading that video to social media, malicious intent had to be involved, and that they shouldn't have done that. But I'm thinking to myself, Broner shouldn't have showed up drunk.
Whatever he was on.
They would do it to me just as easily as they would do it to you if we leave ourselves out there to be exploited.
Such is life.
Yeah, being honest with you, I don't feel an overabundance of sympathy or any of those things. Adrian Broner's a grown man. He's not a kid.
He's not a child.
Say that he's got a problem, a substance abuse problem, that he is an addict, but in saying that, does that absolve him of responsibility, accountability?
Is that what that does? Is he the victim of something?
Victim of his own actions.
Been watching Adrian Broner for many years now, this downward spiral that he's on. I remember 4 years ago, Adrian Broner and some of his buddies terrorizing an Uber driver.
Chris.
Up that shit, bro.
Can we turn up a little bit?
Go back, bro.
I went back.
Go back. Ah! Ah!
Back in high school, I used to bust it to the dance. Now I hit the FBO with duffels in my hands. I did half a Zan, 13 hours till I land. Have it out like a light, hey, like a light, like a light.
Hey, what is that?
I have to leave my vehicle.
We gotta go a little bit
I'm
further.
sorry, no.
What?
I can't.
Man, what you mean? You be gay?
Was banned from using Uber as a result of his treatment of that Uber driver. Adrian Broner's got a lot of problems. He's had a lot of run-ins with the law the last couple of years. Situations like what we're seeing here more recently with this podcast where he appeared to be under the influence of something.
Are we intended to pity him?
Am I intended to? Because being honest with you, I don't. Adrian Broner in the downward spiral he's on.
He's been on.
Adrian Broner himself is responsible for that. I can only tell you now what I said 4 years ago.
He's not a little fucking kid.
Am I supposed to treat him like he's a little kid? Am I supposed to look at him like he's a little kid? Am I supposed to look at him like he's a child? Because he's not. He's a grown man.
Has he got a handicap? Is he retarded or something?
Because unless he is, I don't see any reason to get out the confetti and throw him a pity party for what he is doing to himself, for what he is doing to his own life.
I don't.
You say that the podcasters should not have uploaded that video to social media, but perhaps Adrian shouldn't have showed up drunk or high or whatever he was.
Going to assume that this was a scheduled visit, that it wasn't impromptu, that Adrian knew he was going to be making an appearance on a podcast.
He makes a decision that he's going to show up under the influence of something, and it's the podcasters that are at fault.
Oh.
It's the podcasters that are wrong. Or is it the people in Adrian Broner's immediate circle?
It's their fault.
It's everybody's fault. Everybody's fault but Adrian's. I mean, that's usually how this goes.
I really hope he gets help.
He's got to want to help himself. It's his life, not mine or yours or the podcasters or the people in his immediate circle. It's his life to do with what he wishes. And if this is what he's doing,
What am I supposed to say? Poor Adrian?
just think about it playing out in real time. Adrian Broner arrives at the site of this podcast to make this appearance, presumably already under the influence of something.
What a podcast is supposed to do? Call it all off? If they did, what would have been Adrian's reaction?
I don't think he would have been none too pleased to go all the way there just to be turned away based on his condition.
People who accompanied him, it really was on them looking at him in that state to say, he can't make this appearance. We can't let him go on camera like this.
On them more than the podcasters who have since taken that video down, though not before it went viral, not before it was screen recorded and re-uploaded to YouTube.
By several channels.
Many. And everybody's got their 2 cents, everybody's got something to say. All I can say is Adrian's a grown man.
Not a little kid.
Not taking control of his life or ownership of his actions. And in so many people demanding that this podcast appearance be taken down, it just feels like they're coddling him.
Leave it up. Let him see. Let him see what a fool he's making out of himself. Let him see for himself. That's what they did to Hasselhoff a couple of years ago.
Maybe that'll snap Adrian out of it.
I don't play Oscar de la Hoya the violin whenever he flies off the rails due to his substance abuse. I don't.
So don't expect me to do that for Adrian Broner.
They're both grown-ups.
That's how they want to live. In other news, Dimitri Bivol questions Canelo's negotiation tactics, saying it was wrong to demand a catch weight against Badu Jack.
I don't know. I feel like it's one of those things where the ends have to justify the means.
Whether or not that was really the right decision for an aging fighter, an aging champion looking for one last payday, Dimitri Bivol stated, "To be honest, it's interesting how they being Team Canelo, are promoting fights. How his team is doing." Bivol told Fight Hub TV, "I remember after my fight against him, there were a lot of rumors that he's going to fight unified heavyweight champion Alexander Usyk, that he wanted to fight Usyk. Usyk! Usyk, we said. Whoa, against Usyk?
I remember all those talks being before the Bivol fight, not afterwards.
After he lost to Dmitry Bivol, it was clear Canelo don't belong nowhere near cruiserweight. Dmitry continued, then he was fighting against Gennady Triple G Golovkin. Now we're hearing that he was going to fight Badu Jack. It's close, it's going to happen, and suddenly it's Charlo. It's good promoting.
It's not actually a fair criticism of Team Canelo because it wasn't Team Canelo that was saying that the fight was close or that the fight was 90% done. That was Amir Abdallah of Skills Challenge.
It wasn't Team Canelo. That wasn't actually them. In terms of Team Canelo, when all of that actually was a conversation, that brief moment in time, we didn't hear a lot from Team Canelo in reference to a Jack fight.
Most of what we heard was from Team Badu Jack.
He's right, Bivol said. Of Jack's complaint, what's his weight? His weight should be around 200 pounds. Why should it be less? If you want to fight for his belt, you should be more than 175 and less than 200. This is your limit. Why should we make other limits? There are no limits for this imaginative limit.
People pick and choose when they want to let catch weights bother them. Anybody from Manny Pacquiao to Floyd Mayweather has fought at catch weights.
Floyd Mayweather, who beat Canelo Alvarez many years ago, fought Canelo at a catch weight of 152 pounds. All these guys who criticize Canelo Alvarez here today for this proposed catch weight, they're perfectly okay with Floyd catch weighting Canelo.
If you hate catch weights so fucking much, why don't you criticize Floyd for that one?
The guys who are perfectly okay with Gervonta Davis catch weighting Ryan Garcia but take issue with Canelo potentially catch weighting Badu Jack. The disparity in weight between super middleweight and cruiserweight is far greater than the disparity in weight between lightweight and super lightweight.
Hypocrites, what are you gonna do?
What about Canelo, of course? He has had enough excuses to fight a guy like Badu Jack, but Badu Jack has power. It's an interesting fight if it's at 200 pounds. But if this fight is something in the middle, it's not fair. This is what I can see.
But it's fair for Badu Jack to fight a super middleweight?
The logic they use against Canelo Alvarez only seems to work one way. That's where the biases are exposed. You say that it's not fair for Canelo to try to catch weight Badu Jack, but it's fair for Badu Jack to try to fight a super middleweight when he's got a mandatory in the queue, when there are 3 other champions at his own weight that he should focus on.
That's fair.
It's not good, Bivol added. If you want to fight against a cruiserweight, you should be ready that he's a real cruiserweight.
Well, it wasn't Canelo Alvarez that came to Badu Jack. It's actually the other way around. It was Badu Jack that proposed he fight Canelo Alvarez on the premise that Canelo was going to fight Lunga Makabu.
That fight never materialized, neither did this one, or a rematch with Dmitry Bivol. You have to wonder if Badu Jack and Dmitry made the right decision.
What are they going to do now?
Badu Jack could lose that WBC title to any one of the 3 other champions at this weight. He could lose that title in his very next fight. And Dimitri's left out in the cold without a dance partner.
Yeah?
They couldn't come to an agreement based on the money, I believe it was.
Now what?
Saw a lot of guys sympathizing with Dmitry, saying that he should stand on his square, 10 toes down, not acquiesce to what Canelo wants. But now that he hasn't, what is he left with?
Time will tell.
If that was the right decision, only time will tell. If he can get his hands on the winner of Better Beef versus Smith, then perhaps it wasn't the worst decision to make.
Because Dmitry said that was his focus anyway, going undisputed at his own weight.
Not castigating him for that. I'm just saying that if you didn't get to do the rematch with Canelo because you didn't agree to his terms and you don't end up getting the winner of Better Beef versus Smith, was it really the right decision? Because most people felt Bivol can beat him again.
Especially at 175, where Canelo was reported to want the rematch.
Wanted it at light heavyweight. Dmitry wanted it at super middleweight for Canelo's belts. And as a result of standing on his square, it didn't happen. Was that the right decision?
No big fight lined up.
What is he going to do now?